Ready to start? Okay, I'm gonna call this meeting to order. This is the tax increment reinvestment zone number 1. It is 2:37 PM, September 12th, Tuesday, September 12th. We are at the Community Development Conference Room, 3rd floor of the Transit Center. Everyone rise for the pledge. Face north, or where's the flag? Edward, would you lead us in the pledge? Sure.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Who's gonna help us with roll call, Genesis?
I can do it.
You can do it too?
Mr. Justin Heather,
Here.
Mr. Joseph Knapp said he will be absent today.
Okay.
Mr. Mark DeMay,
Here.
Mr. Orlando Navarro,
Here.
Mr. Wilfredo Martinez, he is not in today. Mr. Jose Ceballos,
Here.
and Ms. Carol Alexander. Here. You do have a quorum.
Thank you, we have a quorum. I'll make a motion to excuse Mr. Neb and Mr. Martinez. Is there a second? Second. Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? None, motion passes. Thank you very much. Next, before I go on, I want to thank everybody that made time to be here today. It's the first time in a while that we met in a smaller room and we get a big crowd today, so.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what it takes, I guess. Thank you very much for everybody that's made time this morning, or this afternoon to be here. We have on the agenda, we have a recognition for Mr. Castillo who's retiring, and I learned that at the last meeting. And hopefully we can get him here so we can present to him a plaque, a well-earned, deserved plaque, particularly with this board, because he goes back quite a ways with the efforts of this board. So I had asked council member for the district, Alisa Cigarroa, to join us, and also Henry Savanier, who is no stranger to this group, both instrumental in the work that's happened before at least my chairmanship. And so thank you both for making time to be here. We appreciate it. Hopefully we get Mr. Castillo over so you all can join in presenting him the recognition. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman, if I can, I'd like to make a motion that we move that item 6 down, right before item 9, I guess, just to make it item 8. And we'll hopefully, Mr. Castillo will be here, and then we can go on.
All right, sounds good. I'll second that motion. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Against, none. We move that item down to item 9. Okay, next on the agenda is number 4, minutes, approval of any amendments to prior meeting minutes of July 11th, 2023. I didn't recall any amendments being read out, but I still put the item on the agenda. I don't see anything in our packet, so that's to reflect that we don't have any amendments, okay. Item 4B, approval of minutes for August 15th, 2023. Those are in your packets. Let me know if there's any edits, changes.
I just want to comment that I'm having a hard time receiving these. And I've been working with Baker and Genesis to figure it out, but,
I'm in the same boat. I don't know if I looked in my spam, I looked in my deleted folder, and I couldn't find them. Something's happening, maybe they're being filtered. I don't know, Justin, did you get it?
I received it
You did?
last week.
Yeah, so I still couldn't find them after I checked in with you also.
Okay.
I use Gmail, so I don't know if it's,
We'll check on our side, on IT, we'll ask IT to verify your
Mine's a
emails
Gmail
and
too.
make sure that,
It may be
that
related
it's
to
not,
the
you know,
Gmail.
maybe filtering those. We're not getting a bounce back on our side, so it should have, and it was sent, what we're doing is we're sending them to you all as, blank CCs. I don't know, that might be causing an issue when you're receiving them.
yeah, but usually you'll find them in the spam. I looked in the spam.
What we'll try to do is we'll send you some test ones, just separate, maybe it's the blank CC that we're doing, and we're doing it that way so to avoid any quorum discussions on an
Right.
email. But we'll try to see if maybe we need to send them individually and not as a blank CC. We'll try that and see if there's any change to it, but I know, you know, Ms. Garcia, she tried to She's trying to change she was trying to check to make sure that, that we had your proper emails. So, did you get the second time we sent it?
Well, yeah, and so it happens like, it's like every month, right? I
So
go,
maybe it's
"Hey, I
when we
haven't seen
send
it."
them, it's cause we're doing blank CC, like blank CC, so
But last
maybe-
time I found it once, Edgar,
It's
you
then
know,
we
it
send it
wasn't
to you
talked
by
about.
yourself.
Yeah, oh.
You get me?
well,
So when we're
yeah.
sending it separate, you are getting it. When we're sending it as a group, as a blank CC, maybe that's the issue.
Yeah, I didn't look at my spam.
Yeah.
I can find, but I mean, I knew the items, I kind of helped formulate the agenda, so I'm not so concerned, but for somebody else, I think not having that could be a
Yeah, and
problem.
also I wanted to see the minutes, right?
Okay.
So that
Yeah.
I could read them beforehand,
Yes.
before now.
No, we definitely we'll make note of that, and maybe we'll just start sending them separate. And
Okay.
maybe that's the issue, that's the only issue that I could think of. That
Yeah,
might be,
because
because we're not getting a bounce back,
once
so
I asked
I don't
for-
think it would be an IT issue on our side.
Right.
Yeah, cause then we send it to you as a separate email, you
Mhm,
got
and I
it.
got it,
See,
right.
so, yeah,
But
so.
that was
But
yesterday,
separate,
yeah.
we didn't do, yeah, so maybe it's the group message, the group email
Maybe
that
not.
we're sending it. We'll change that tactic and we'll just start
You
sending them
guys saw it?
separate.
No.
You are Gmail too, right, Google?
So y'all are, so that might be what's happening. Okay.
I have a question on the minutes. Thank you, Tina, for helping us with that. Where it says item 9, 10, 11, where it says no updates, is that to reflect that item was not discussed or that no action taken or?
Nine, 10, yeah. 9, 10, 11. I can double check with staff. I know, I had new staff helping me develop
So can we
but they
bring these
went.
back for the
Yeah,
next
so we'll
meeting?
bring them back. We go back with the recording, so maybe it was just unclear when these items were discussed. But
Okay.
I'll go back and verify that these items.
Sounds good, thank you. So no action on item 4B. Item 5 is citizens' comments. Citizens are required to fill out a witness card no later than 2:45. It's now 2:45, but since we started late, we'll take any newcomers that come into the meeting. This can be found on location here, these cards, at the Community Development Conference Room. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. No more than 3 persons will be allowed to speak on any issue. Speakers may not pass their minutes to any other speaker. Comments should be relevant to city business and delivered in a professional manner. No derogatory remarks will be permitted. We do have Arturo Garcia, who's joined us, a former TIRZ member. Welcome, Arturo, and we appreciate you. You've been here before, appreciate your feedback. Anytime that you're here, we always welcome it. Arturo Garcia, go ahead.
My comment was just for the, I believe you guys are gonna present the final plans?
Yes.
It's item 10, I think, or
Okay.
or if it's brought up before, I'd like to just go.
So you want to wait? I'm sure we're
See,
gonna
I'll
get
wait,
into
I'll
that.
wait, I'll
Okay,
wait.
thank you very much. Anybody else for public comment?
Well, I do go out into this community, this downtown community, to try and let people know what's coming up and what's gonna be happening. Nobody knows, no, many people, I shouldn't say that, nobody knows. Many people are still unaware of what's coming up, and I'm starting to worry that it's gonna start right around, I don't know, Christmas Day, they're gonna break ground or something. But, so, some of the people, they run stores, and they're unable to be here, so I, innocently, naively said, oh, you can just send an email to Edgar, and you can make your public comment that way. And then I learned today that is not, an available option, to send an email to be read in public comment, so I was hoping maybe we could change that.
No, that's probably more of a city protocol for this board. I'm perfectly willing to read any comments that are received. If you can forward to me, I'll read them on the record while we go through the item. I don't have a problem with it.
I got one, but it's pretty long, but we can do it for next time, yeah.
Does
I
that-
don't think we ever adopted it for this board. I don't think we ever.
Did you want to
Oh,
comment,
I'm
Councilmember?
sorry, I was curious as to why not, because we do that for council, and I think it was meant for all committees at the time too.
To be read as submitted? I mean, that's.
I don't
to
think
me,
we ever just went back and we didn't adopt it, we didn't change the.
If we get it,
could.
we can read it on the record
Mhm.
and the board can hear it when we're here. So that's no problem ever, so.
Okay. We'll make that change to
Yeah, you
to
just.
the agenda.
But should they?
If I can
send them
just
to the
mention
PIO?
something, I know that I've submitted some public comments to the city council, and they do put a cutoff to verify the individual that's submitting the comments, that they're the ones submitting the comments. So
Yeah.
I would stick to that protocol.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Or-
I have no problem reading comments, you know, if they're emailed or whatever, and changing the protocol is up to the council.
So can I bring you all some information on how
Mhm.
the city is doing it? I'm
Sure.
not too familiar with what process they're following, so
Yeah.
again, it's up to the board, the way you wanna accept your public comments. But I'll definitely bring you that information. I'll send it to you so you can see.
My preference is to hear everything within reason, right? So there's
Yes.
some parameters, but
Yeah.
me reading it during the meeting is no
Yeah,
problem.
I think the city, what they've, again, like, Mr. Garcia mentioned, what they've discovered is just to verify the validity of these comments coming in, because they were getting just random names and random items that didn't pertain to
Right.
anything.
I think they were very
Perfect.
direct names.
No, I'm saying.
The source.
They were just trying to be funny.
You're talking about the
Correct.
source.
Yes, they were just being, yes,
Okay.
clowns, you know. It's
Yeah.
a good way to put it. So, again, but that's gonna be up to I mean, y'all can always decide if those get read or not read, and,
Yeah, okay,
okay.
thank you very much. Anything else, any other public comment? All right, there being none, we'll move on to presentation items. We moved item 6, so at item 7, discussion on any downtown-related effort or activity of board members' interest or concern. This has kind of been a standing open item, anything that's not on the agenda that the board wants to speak on.
Well, I know, I'm always speaking, but, yeah, it's just, it's more and more, I guess, it's more, actually, I got the window there. It's clearer that the lack of any kind of business district or group that works together, to advocate for downtown is a real issue. And, the lack of that advocacy, collective advocacy, formal, organized advocacy, and also coupled with the lack of any kind of plan, puts us in a hamster wheel of, not moving forward. And until we can address that, I am concerned about the money that we're spending for improvements when there is no collective voice, recognition of a voice, or anybody at the city that is charged or responsible for the central business district. And,
I think Carol, if I can, comment, I think we're gonna have some benefit in having the city manager sit with us at this table regularly. I think that gives us, an advantage or some, looking forward, some benefit that we haven't had before. Not that anybody's service here has been below par, I think everybody has served well. But I think having the city manager is gonna be a good advantage for coordination, communication, and then two, for what you've expressed over time, the maintenance and maintenance and care for the improvements that we're planning. So I think it probably would be beneficial for there to be maybe a separate conversation with the city manager ahead of maybe the next meeting, so that can be discussed and give him an opportunity to kind of work on things and identify the issues that need attention. But I think we're gonna get benefit. One of the things for me, we're gonna get to the projects here today, is the coordination with the utilities department. We all know that that's kind of coming to a head. We won't be able to ignore it, and it's gonna put a lot of pressure on that department. So hopefully the city manager in his role will assist in taking us through that effort as diligently as we can without it being too disruptive, both to our downtown stakeholders and the department. That would be, so I guess what I'm suggesting is maybe sit down with the city manager to kind of discuss your concerns.
I was really looking forward to meeting him today, and I'm disappointed that he's not here. I mean, I know he's a busy guy.
He's out of town, right? So, yeah.
But, yes. but there will be no, there is no substitute for an organized advocacy group that the downtown leaders, decision makers can work with, instead of knocking on every door in our giant downtown, to try and find some, answers.
Yeah. Okay. Any other comments?
Well, I brought this for the city manager. Because sometimes I go a week and I collect my papers and then I read them on a weekend, right, to kind of see what's happening. And I do the old-fashioned old lady newspaper. But on Sunday, there is one headline here that I'm not alluding to, but this one, the $1.7 million restoration proposed, is concerning to me as a TIRZ board member and also as a stakeholder in downtown, that what will happen with our $2 million worth of improvements is this exactly, that I'm not making up. This is, almost $2 million, right? That they're gonna redo a park that's already been done. So instead of maintaining this improvement, it's been, left to fall apart and require a bunch of money to, get it back. And besides, the neighborhood that has been without this, amenity for however long it's been, I don't know anything about this park, but however long this has been. So this is probably, I mean, I don't know the answer, but this is because, the efforts to sustain this improvement are not in place. And that's exactly where we are. As I look at the, well, I can't see them because of the trees, but the tables that are in this meeting place, this public space, are not suitable to be used. They're filthy, which is, and it's with you know, disease-causing issue, and so the lack of addressing what's happening down here is just, you know, it's been the same thing for many years, and until we right that, this is what we're gonna do, throwing $2 million down the drain. And it's not a surprise that we need to look at that now. And the answers to that, there's answers, best practices that other cities have done, other communities, other areas, other groups have done, and best practices in many other areas is a business improvement district working alongside the city. And if that doesn't happen, well then, who's supposed to be taking care of this stuff? Who cleans the sidewalks? And who, I mean, I did public, what was it? Information.
Open records.
Open records. I did that, and I did receive the plan, and I left it on my desk. But, it's just not sufficient. The process to clean public spaces, which our downtown, I think, has 5 plazas, right? 5 plazas?
Yeah, well,
Oh,
it-
downtown.
5 plazas? Yeah, we've got 5 public spaces that aren't being adequately cleaned or addressed.
So, you know, I've always advocated for having a downtown crew that's identifiable. It's been very challenging with changes in city management to get that formulated. I'm not the only one that's advocated for that. I think most of the people on this TIRZ board and other boards have suggested it. There's been other suggestions, but for sure, having an operative team that helps maintain, and that stakeholders down here identify and know who it is, right? We've been asking for that, we haven't gotten it over time, but I think that's important that we keep in mind, so we're not remiss as we set forth a plan to expend $2 million, that we actually do have an operational maintenance and operational plan behind it. Not all of it should fall on the city, some of it belongs in the private sector, but there is, you know, there's not enough clarity in terms of who's in charge from a public asset standpoint, that's my opinion. So I'm in agreement. I think we have, again, to reiterate, we have an opportunity to visit with the city manager and maybe try to charge ahead on formulating a response that satisfies that while we're getting this done. The business district, I think there's an effort to get that formulated and for that board to be formed, right? So, and it's formed, that board to be filled completely.
Sure.
And that's gonna be kind of an integrated solution as well. I think that needs to happen in hand with a more public operational effort. Those are my comments. I don't know if any other board has there any comments on that topic? All right. Anything else on item 7? Okay, then moving on to standing administrative status updates, item 8, including these listed on your agenda. And I will go to Rick Solis with the updates.
Good afternoon, members of the board, Chairman Reed Solis with Davis City. I want to just kind of walk you through the things that we've been working through over the last month or so with regards to these items. I have some slides to show here. I hope you all can see them on the screen. So this is the master plan for the murals and storefronts that we've been discussing. We've identified the region where we want to focus those efforts on to. We have done an analysis on the properties that are associated with those. And these are like all the storefront properties. Really, you're not gonna read them, it's just more to show you. I have a better slide for that, right? But again, just to identify the properties that we're looking at and the potential property owners. I will say that based on the webcat information that we've received, it's been a little bit of a challenge to find people. I think Viviana can speak to that a little bit more. As far as the murals, again, we identified all the different property owners for that. And so we have this spreadsheet that we're starting that takes all of that information. I can share the spreadsheet with the board if they want to look at it. It does have the property ID link, so if you click on that, it'll take you directly to the webcat page so you can see all of that information. With that said, we have made contact with a few of the, not necessarily the property owners, but the brokers, I guess, or the agents, is that correct? I don't know if you wanna add more to that, Viviana.
So, actually, the one person that I spoke to is here at the table, who is an agent for several of these properties, and he can tell you what he knows, but, I did speak also with the general manager of La Posada, Tito Garcia, and his thoughts were that, they would, consider any mural, except that they would want to have final approval and consideration, or that's concerned. I think there was an attempt for an approval there before, but it wasn't approved because it kind of didn't really have anything to do with La Posada or the people who were instrumental in making it the hotel that it is. So I think that's giving us some direction on that one. And I don't know if you would like to allow
Sure.
Larry.
Did you wanna make comments, Larry?
Well, as far as the buildings that I talked to Viviana about, I don't think we're gonna have any problems. We just wanna see what we're gonna do with them, what type of murals are gonna be going up and for how long. Is it, if this is just gonna be a temporary issue, or temporary meaning 6 months to a year, or longer, but we have no problems with any and all of our buildings.
I think the next step is to get the contract that was done with the Alto Hotel to put that on that private owned wall. If we could get a copy of what
We've
was done with the
circulated that,
center.
but we do need to circulate it to yourself, to you and to the city manager, so we'll get that. That has a 5-year, but I think the way that we're hoping this will unveil, at least what we've discussed, is that we would leave it up to the proponent and the owner to find a middle ground, right? So the investment makes sense. If it's only a year, maybe it doesn't make sense. If it's 5 years, it makes sense, but I think it's to be flexible so that we can actually get the artwork done, you know, and the projects done. That's-
So, yes, it's, I think it's, the legalese that probably that we need to know.
That's part of the negotiation.
Right, that's
again,
correct.
Of what makes sense
Yeah.
for the amount of investment. That was a long-term, you know, agreement saying, you know,
Right.
there was some components of who was gonna maintain it, who was gonna ensure that property, and that they can't just paint over it, you know, things like to that.
I think that's what they wanna know,
Yeah.
is the legal aspect.
So I can see without you saying it, that the concern could be you could sell that property and the next property owner doesn't want that on, right? That's, could be one item.
Well, there's several buildings here that we're not selling, so
Okay.
like number two, we're under, number two that we have there, I mean, we have a lease in place for the downstairs, so we could possibly do something all throughout the second floor, you'll have great visibility there. The next one over that you have, I just saw this, I'm closing on that property, number 4, I'm closing on Friday on that, so we could possibly use, we can
That's-
use everything.
That's
else
a
that we-
great piece right there, that one's probably at the top.
Yeah, yeah. So, and then across the street, that's the one I thought we were talking about, we have that 4-story building, 5-story building.
This building here.
That one right there, right, the Casa Hueto building, La Peloquita, and we could utilize that building also, no problem.
So my recollection is that we would accept proposals, the board was flexible in accepting proposals, that we would provide a guideline over what we thought would be a funding average and different, but we wouldn't be locked into it. I think this still works, you know, even, I mean, I think if we saw something that was 2 years and it made sense to do it, I think, why not? You know, without, you know, I'm speaking for myself, I would push for something that made sense. Like that billboard, I mean, that's a retail, that's a moneymaker for the, could be a moneymaker, but, you know.
We bought the building just for the billboard.
Yeah, so, you know, if you gave the city of Laredo or the TIRZ the opportunity to put something there for a year or two and help us, you know, lease the space upstairs, you know, that could work for you, could work for the city.
Right, right.
I'm just thinking out loud.
Sure.
So Rick, you feel you've made sufficient progress to start formulating the solicitation?
Yes, yeah, I think, and I know there's an item on the agenda further down, but we certainly do want to, get that going so that we can then start sharing these documents. I do also wanna mention that, on the website, we've already activated the, I can.
And council member, feel free to jump in, because I know you've been an integral part in getting this off the ground.
So we've also activated this component on the website where it says apply for mural, apply to be an artist. If you go to that, it allows you to, well, it's asking me to sign in, but there is an intake form both for artists and property owners. I think the one missing component that I think we need to add to this is, I know this is like very general, like if you're downtown, you know, we'll take your information, and maybe that's the way to do it. I know we have a particular zone that we wanna target, that we may focus it more on that. I'm not sure how we can do that just yet, but I think that's what we probably will look at, just focusing it on that red region that we,
So I wanna touch on a topic on that subject of procurement, right? So our attempt is to make it as simple as possible for people to be encouraged to participate, but we also wanna comply with procurement. So if we can work with you and procurement, the procurement office, to take what you already use, which is not really that too complicated, but maybe Rick's kind of come up with a format that meets those requirements, but makes it simple for a user to go on the website and make the proposal.
Okay.
So, you know, we'll work with you on it.
And,
Yeah.
but,
And,
sorry.
well, and Tina as well, and you're our liaison too, sorry, Tina.
No, and I was just gonna mention, we might just need some parameters, so the board might wanna discuss and vote on some parameters, because for an RFP, you can do the parameters of, amount is gonna be very important. When we've done some, requests for proposals for artists, for murals, there's always gonna be a budget issue, right?
Right.
So we wanna put, if you wanna put a range, if you wanna put, you know, an amount, that can be also part of the procurement process, because that's gonna be important, because, you say mural, and you can end up with
Yeah.
$100,000 mural or a $10,000, postcard mural. I mean,
Yeah.
it can range, so I would suggest that you all discuss what parameters you want, and when you discuss the amount, is when you would wanna put, also on the RFP that, you want it to last, for 2
Define
years.
the
Define the
operational term.
term.
Rick, did you have the slide with the terms we discussed, with the amounts we discussed
You know what,
last time?
I don't have that slide.
So
here,
we had gone
but
through that
yes, we have
discussion
that. I can-
before.
Yeah, I can send that around again so that everybody sees. I don't have it here. Yeah, this is just
So-
the, images.
Dr. Dewa's been raising her hand. Dr. Dewa, you wanna comment?
Yes, just very quickly, I think it's important just, for people, like general public, to know that there is a priority of a specific area. Because I feel like people can be, we know about people that would like to have a mural in front of their store. But if they apply,
Yeah,
they're not
we
first
just
priority.
wasted their time, yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
So I think it's important as like general public to know, this is our first priority.
Yeah.
You can come in to sign for a waiting list, and whenever we're ready, we'll go to phase 2, phase 3.
Yeah, I think like on the website, we have this page that where it says to get involved. I think we can expand this to show the area.
Mhm.
You could also add an exhibit right to the website that they
Right.
can print, and
Yeah.
it's the project zone.
Yeah, yeah. So-
Do you have a section to apply to be a property owner or just an artist?
No, it's right here
Okay,
to
good,
apply,
yeah.
apply for marijuana business, and you click that, it could.
So you
So
can also.
this program essentially becomes a artist owner match
Correct.
with the
That's the
TIRZ
idea.
kind of in the middle of those awards.
And-
So-
And whoever if an artist were to be given the award, do we cut him a check? Is that how it works? We cut him a check, or? I
That's
mean,
more of a
I
city
don't know.
procurement. I don't think it, how does that work, Tina? Like, do
So
they,
just like anybody else, as the work gets done, you pay it.
It's usually in reimbursement.
it's a reimbursement?
So.
So that needs
but-
to be stated too clearly, because some people can't afford to front their work.
So the request, I'm sorry. May I?
Miss- Go ahead.
You just said that we're matching artists to storefront, and they're talking about requests for proposals. Those are two different things.
Well, the proposals would come to the board, and we wouldn't know which property owners actually have an interest. So there needs to be some discussion between the proponent and the property owner. Like, you might say, well, no, this won't work in my property, but this one might. Let's visit. So we wouldn't make the award until we actually knew that there was a match.
Because when we've done requests for proposals, we'll get a rendering. If you
Yes.
don't wanna put parameters, we put parameters of like, we want it historic, or we want it to, or you can or you can't. And then you let that proposal come in with an
Yes.
actual rendition for the amount that you said. And then, and that'll be easier for you to show to the business owners that you already have in a list. And you can show them, would this work for you, would this work for you?
And we've covered these guidelines in other meetings too, so
Mhm.
we would have some requirements, so that proposal, keep them light.
Mhm.
Don't overburden the
Correct.
proponent, but substantial, so we know what they're
So
suggesting.
there's no need for a public procurement where anybody can,
So
Well, that is
the
it.
procurement is more important on who you're gonna pay. So more importantly, we're not paying the property owner, we're paying the artist. So the procurement has to be covered with the person you're gonna pay. The business owner, that's just an agreement between the TIRZ, artist. It's kind of like a 3-party agreement, cause the property owner's agreeing for us to, invest money on their wall, or, place this item on their wall, and they're promising not to remove it from their wall.
Correct.
But basically, that's just an agreement.
And they're also saying.
So you don't have to
the
procure
artist
the
is responsible
business.
too.
Yes.
Cause
You
they don't
have-
want the responsibility of
Yes.
maintaining it.
More than anything, I think the important part, and we can double check, or, Mr. DeMay, if I'm a little bit off, but I think the procurement process is who we're gonna pay is the more important. Because the business owner does get a benefit, right, cause they have a nice wall, but theirs is gonna be more of the agreement that they're not gonna remove it. You know, that's really the agreement, because they're not getting the financial benefit, we're not cutting a check to the business owner. So I would think that the more important procurement process would be on the artist.
So, and this, the invitation, the public invitation is when it is posts. We're inviting people to propose, that's when it posts, that's when it's public. What we had entertained before, which was brought up before, is we were going to select specific properties. That was different. Now it's, somewhere along the way, we decided to open up into a zone, so I think that requires a solicitation.
We, so we're ignoring the,
We're still stuck to that zone, because we've adopted that zone that Rick.
okay, with the zone, but, haven't they already brought those properties?
Those are the identified property owners within the zone.
So,
Yes,
but we're not adhering to that?
Those are
I'm
potential.
confused.
Yes, but they're not gonna give you a definite yes or no until they see a picture of what's gonna be placed there. So I think we can't do one without the other, so
That's correct.
I think if you all focus on doing the procurement for the artist and what is gonna be, what gets you the amount that you put, and I'm just gonna say a number, 10,000, 20,000, whatever you all decide,
This one?
what
Yes.
artist is gonna get you, and then from there, from that rendition, you can go to the property owners in whichever, you know, order
Well,
of, you know.
we've gone through the different meetings, we've already gone through this. We selected those spots, we asked our
Correct.
consulting team to come back with potential sites. But we also said, if there's other sites, we wanna take them on and review them, right? So if somebody said, I'm next to A, right next door, and I wanna do something there, I don't know what that is, but we wanna take that in and also chime in on whether we would entertain that. So to your question, we did set some parameters to some preferred locations, which are those.
But now we're also opening it up?
Well, we always were gonna open to that zone,
To add more potential.
because we may end up with, like, without permission on our preferred sites, some preferred sites.
Right.
So that, Rick, if you could show that side where the pedestrians walk in, on the side of La Posada?
Right here?
Yes. So we're gonna expect an artist to front their own money to create something on that size of,
So again, that is just the way
No,
that
what-
we've done some other ones, I
Okay.
mean.
and the
and
artists come up
usually-
with the money?
Right. Probably need to do draws or something. I don't, yeah, cause they might not, they can't
Correct.
afford it.
Yeah.
Yeah, they might go and
It's a
get the,
big-
I mean, there's been different ways, I don't know how environmental did some of theirs.
We're
I
not
can-
using starting artists?
I can verify with environmental on how they did theirs. Usually the city does not put out a check for any services upfront, but I know there's some situations you can.
It's within our policies to make adjustments here, for example, if it's necessary to give them an advance on the project of a certain amount.
Okay.
With proper justification, we can go forward there if, again,
Like an
if
invoice
we've
or
gone
something
through
they
the
show you.
appropriate process. There are some avenues there that can be used, that it's within city policies.
Okay.
And that
It's
can be
just not
put,
frequent.
and that can be placed in the procurement.
That
So
makes
me
if
feel
you,
better
if you let
because-
artists know or any contractor know this upfront,
Right.
it makes the process easier.
That, if the idea is to do that whole wall, I mean, that's $50,000. You
Yeah,
know, that's our whole budget.
Yeah, I think it was like whatever the amount that we had for
Yeah.
murals.
Yeah, so you might not get the whole wall,
So
maybe
yes,
get like a
you-
section
you-
of the
you-
wall.
like the part that when you walk out the door, it may be that big, you know, but it's not gonna
Something,
be the whole
to
wall.
do something, yeah. So, yeah, you're suggesting another committee meeting to kind of hash out, but we do have some guidelines we've kind of scrubbed through in other meetings, just bring those back as a final, but this project's taken us a long time to really finesse and put it out. I really would urge you all to wrap it up and to condense guidelines. Councilmember, do you have any comments on this item before? It's still not the action item, it's just status, but,
No, but I'd be happy to meet with the committee also to help.
okay, great.
So I do think we need somebody, we need probably somebody from,
From Tina's
city
office,
Sorry?
from your office to be at the committee.
To come with a final, this is what we're gonna do, and here's the draft. And then vote on that.
Well, we provided a draft, to the board.
She's already given us
Yeah.
that information like many times.
No,
We've circulated at least a couple of times, there are various agreements, cause you had to keep Laredo beautiful, and then you had this one.
yeah.
So-
It's different from what she's talking about right now.
I understand, but I don't want to like keep circling the guidelines. We need to come up with our own guidelines. That's what she's really referencing. It's on
Yeah,
our, this is
parameters
on
need
our
to-
side,
The
like,
parameters need to come from the board.
yes, that's correct. So from a consulting standpoint, bring us back those condensed guidelines so that we can vote on it.
I know we didn't look at all of them, but there are smaller locations, smaller
Yeah.
areas,
So
right?
we've targeted.
I mean, you're showing big stuff,
No, but like these little storefronts, you could put a mural right here, or,
Right.
sorry, a storefront, you know,
maybe like a 4x8 or something
Yeah,
like that.
yeah.
Yeah, that helps because we do get a lot of little ones going
Right,
Right.
that's,
quicker.
For the storefronts,
I
yes.
have a question. Should we provide a list of available walls and the dimensions for the artists, they can give us a cost or whatever?
Yes.
For the proposal, yes.
You know, we need to give parameters.
I don't wanna be a dead horse, but we've been in this place numerous times before, guys. I mean, and it's really, I hate to say this, but it's really on the consulting side, but we're not getting this wrapped up. We need to come back with specific guidelines. You're asking, for dimensions that we're way past that, like, you need to bring those back already if you think you
Yeah,
need them.
okay, sure.
So what is outstanding? If you could just list it.
Guidelines.
In an easy way.
The breakdown for the budgetary items, first, there's two. There's a storefront, there's a mural project. There's a combined
Okay,
program.
let's talk about just the murals.
What about,
Just the murals. What do we need to make one go?
we need to finish the solicitation to request proposals, so it's all kind of a combined effort.
So we need a solicitation. And what else?
But that's the
I
thing
don't
that,
understand why we're still circling the wagons. Like, what do we need to do and then let's go?
We
that's
need
what
to-
he's telling the.
That's
Well,
what
yes, I know,
consultant
I
here.
know you're saying it's us,
Yes.
but it's not, because as you can see, the discussion is still very open and fluid. I mean, at least I don't understand how you're gonna do a public procurement without, telling somebody where the site is and a size of a mural and
You
where
may
they're
not have
going
been
and
at
so.
that meeting, but we've covered these guidelines. You all
So
have slides where you covered those.
I think the board is just waiting for a slide from the consultants stipulating, this is what we're recommending, this is what we're recommending, these are the guidelines, and from there, we'll put them out for procurement. That's what we're needing.
And then working with the documents so that they meet city guidelines.
Yeah, and then we'll check if they
Right.
need, if there's anything that we need to add on the city, procurement side, we add it. But that's what the board hasn't seen, the actual document that's gonna be bid out, or proposed, or called for solicitation.
Rick, did we cover all your slides?
Yeah, I think, on the wayfinding and monument markers, just to let everybody know, now, I wanted to bring these back up so that everybody remembers what we talked about. Our wayfinding options, as well as those are the monument signs, as well as the, directional street signs that we've discussed. I did wanna remind everyone, we sort of settled on, this is sort of the standard sign, and that we may have a couple of special signs on some locations, but that's sort of where we arrived at. As I mentioned in the last meeting, we did talk to a sign company, they haven't gotten back to us, so I did contact them again today. So for the next meeting, I hope to have some better updates as far as how we're gonna build these things and maybe get some costs. I know they're on a buy board, so we might be able to just use that as a procurement vehicle if the pricing works with what we have. We do have a budget that was, approved some time back, so we'll be trying to stay within that budget. As far as the next item, with regards to.
Rick,
Yeah,
I just
go
have a
ahead.
question on the wayfindings. So we're just waiting for, again, for us to receive is it specifications? Or-
Yes.
Okay, so you
Yeah.
just need to give us the
Yeah,
specifications. so
exactly,
we can- okay.
like they're gonna tell us, well, you can build that with aluminum, this color,
Okay,
those
perfect.
kinds of things.
And yeah, we can definitely work on the procurement side once we get those
Right.
specifications.
And there is a set aside from convention. and
Yes,
visitors.
so there's this, it's a city and the TIRZ, so
Right.
that way we need to make sure that it meets all the procurement process, but yeah, we just need that and we can put it, we can verify with that.
So, yeah, so Mr. Demay, this was kind of a partnership effort between CVB and the TIRZ. So we pulled together funds to do more and kind of not duplicate it. We agreed on branding and these kinds of elements, so that's where you're gonna find a budget under CVB that's for this effort, and then some on our side.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's
So,
really
Rick, do you need a committee meeting to finish this off, or?
I don't think so. I think we're set on what we're doing. I
Okay.
just need to get the specs so that we can then get it.
For TIRZ.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll work on it. On item C, grants and similar sources, I did talk with Juan Mendive, this afternoon regarding the MPO grant. He did say that the TxDOT had received our initial project information form and that TxDOT had approved that. I believe we're waiting on another form, some oversight special approval form.
Yeah,
like-
so,
it's like
yeah.
form on top of a form, you know?
Exactly, it is, in TxDOT format, it is, I thought I could get it back to them, it's sitting with me.
Yeah.
And I've had it for a couple of weeks, so it's, Edward used to be a TxDOT staff member, so it's not as easy as just sitting down and filling it out. So I need about another week to get it back to him, but I'll get it out to him. So it's essentially an oversight agreement on behalf of the TIRZ board to accept the funds, and then we get to an advanced funding agreement.
So I think the one thing that we did discuss, was that we have a start date of February 2024, more or less, and we have 2 years to extend the funding. I guess we probably want to, not this month or next month, but soon start considering if, once we get that approval, to start that design process to kind of try to get ahead of when that clock date starts. So.
It's an important point.
Yeah, so I just wanted to bring that to everyone's attention.
So that almost needs to be authorized next month for, Edward, you need all of that time for design, right? From here to February?
Sure, I mean, we, obviously we anticipate design would be much quicker than this one, because this first phase set the standard for many of the specs and standards that we plan on using moving forward, but yeah, certainly we'll need some time. And it's less blocks also. It'll be a little quicker than this process for sure.
Just to clarify, we're talking about Salinas. right?
Salinas, yes.
Yes, ma'am.
So, Mr. Demme, there was a second phase, so to speak, it's an unofficial phase, where we applied for a grant through the MPO and TxDOT for this street right here. It goes down to the bridge, so there's select improvements that are gonna come up there.
Okay.
And we thought February 2024 was a long way away, right?
Yeah,
And
it's like it's like 5
Next
months,
week.
so 6 months. Okay, I don't have an update on the urban community forestry grant, so we'll report back on that.
The only update I have, if I may, Rick, is, we submitted a letter, kind of an informal letter to the county. Remember, the county has some, federal funds that they've received that they may have an opportunity to direct. It came to the board when we authorized, being part of this grant. So we submitted a letter that basically states, county, if you have funding, we'd love to have it for reforestry. So I don't know if how that's gonna roll out, if they actually will end up having funding, but they already are part of the grant. Through the risk, the risk is the lead applicant, but they're already part of that grant. So if they do identify funding, then we would come back and actually identify locations for these trees to go in. And I appreciate Rick working on an exhibit for them to be able to understand the tree planting options that are available for that work.
I do wanna also mention, I did attend a conference, last week, and one of the items that was discussed was about urban heat island effect. And, it was with, someone with USGBC and the San Antonio River Authority. They also brought someone from City of El Paso who came to speak about their tree, grant program that they're doing. City of El Paso has an Office of Sustainability and something, I forget what it's called, but, essentially, Their program was they would go out into the neighborhoods to find 4 or 5 neighbors that needed trees. Now, they were planting these in the right of way, which is sort of what we're planning on doing. Just as a anecdote on that, they said that the program was fairly successful, but it's the little details like, that not only did they have to give them the tree, but they also had to give them the hose, right, to water the tree, because without it, the trees were dying, you know. So I think as we go through this process, we probably need to evaluate not just the trees themselves, but all of like the irrigation and all the other things that we've noted on our plans, but it's good to know that other cities along the border are attacking this issue. Item number D, the plaza parking alternative layout, I believe there was an item on council agenda that was approved. I do wanna let everyone know, and I guess you can speak to this, Edward, we had sort of done a sketch schematically, but there's still plans that need to be generated,
Right.
which there's really no, proposal in place to do that, so I think, you probably need to speak to that, Edward, as far as, maybe getting an additional service to take care of that, work. I don't know if
You want
wanna
me to
add-
speak to that
yeah,
now?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, so I did meet with Mr. Peña, and we discussed the angled parking, exhibit, and I just mentioned to him that, well, Edward Ochoa with KCI, sorry for the record. Meeting with Mr. Peña, I discussed that, you know, what we had put together was essentially an exhibit that just showed, you know, what the parking would look like and what could be gained by it in that, Laredo Center for the Arts, area. But I did let him know that we did not have a scope of work to develop plans for it. And I don't anticipate, you know, we're not talking about a huge plan set, right, it's just a few sheets. Mr. Peña expressed to me that, they would very likely be building it in-house, so he wouldn't really need a whole bunch of information, but it was just a matter of, getting something in writing. And I think, Councilwoman, he did mention he might reach out to you just to let you know about that.
Yes, he did.
So, I just said, you know, from my perspective is, I mean, I'd be more than happy to create, you know, the sheets that are required for the work. We just need to discuss, cause he was asking me who was paying for it, I said, I don't know if it's in the TIRZ budget or engineering or traffic, I didn't know how to speak to that, so.
Well,
That's
Do you
kind of
have
where
an
I'm at.
estimate?
I'm sorry, ma'am?
Do we have an estimate of how much?
you have a range of costs for preparing those drawings?
For preparing the drawings, no, I hadn't really put one together. Really, where I left off with Mr. Peña was, probably a few, I mean, I would say a few thousand bucks. Yeah, definitely less than 10,000, probably 5,000 or so.
Since we
It's just a few
initiated
sheets.
the project, I think we would be fine to bring it back for approval for this board, so that we don't
Just a-
delay the effort.
Just a comment, KCI's contract is with the city of Laredo Engineering Department, so we also have to keep in mind
Bouncing it off of
what
the-
scope was provided to him, and if an amendment to that scope is allowed,
Yes.
or it has to be a full, whole new contract. Which also, I wanted to mention, is also gonna be something that we need to look at with the engineering department in regards to if you're gonna ask, KCI to be the design, team for the TechStar project, it might have to be procured again. Just,
We did that review, or at least I did the review earlier, when we wrote that
We did
procurement,
that.
we allowed we had language
For Salinas.
knowing,
or,
no, it wasn't we didn't know it was Salinas,
Oh,
but
just
for
in case.
future related, connected projects, so there's language in there.
Okay.
And we can, we can review that and so everybody feels comfortable with it. But yeah, we did that back then, actually, probably Henry worked on some of that with us too, to make sure we weren't locked in just to that, because we weren't really sure what the projects would end up when we first solicited. But yeah, we can do that review.
I think we should bring it back because, as far as pain, because, it'll stop if we don't.
Yeah, I think we need to see it through.
It'll go nowhere, and I'd rather get it done.
Okay. So we need to do two things, is review the procurement, make sure it can come back as an amendment, and then we can vote on that. Are you okay with that?
Okay. I mean, I can work on just an additional services proposal, but like I said, a few thousand bucks, it's not gonna be a whole lot. Mr. Peña did express it would just simply, sheets that his department could use that would have, dimensions and stuff for them to stripe. And then I told him, in the meeting, we also, mentioned, I guess for a councilwoman, we would help provide kind of a schedule of quantities, what the cost would be, so I think I had mentioned it at some previous meetings, but it is not gonna be as simple as just putting stripes down, cause you've got existing parking meters that are lined up with the parallel parking, so when you angle park them, you are gonna squeeze in more vehicles, so those have to get removed and relocated, and he would have to purchase, I believe, and we were counting, I think it's like 3 more double meters and like 2 more singles or something like that.
Well, I know that I've spoken to the city manager also about phasing in automated
Kiosks.
standalone kiosks, so let's keep advocating for those.
Yeah, I did mention to him in previous meetings also that, the board had mentioned the possibility of a kiosk type or, a sign and scan, QR code.
Yeah.
That pays online, but, very briefly, I believe he had mentioned a rough cost of a kiosk that I believe is somewhere in town, and it was like 46,000, or I don't know why that number jumps out at me, but I guess that would need to, be investigated internally from the city.
Well, I know in San Antonio, I parked in one of the city parking spaces downtown. I stayed longer than I should have, so I was sent a picture of my vehicle coming in and leaving, and a bill for $82 because I stayed over like 10 minutes.
Wow.
Mhm.
Well,
So cameras
certainly are
really make a
traffic
difference.
department can be
Yeah, there's-
$1,000.
updated.
There are several that this is going a little off topic, but several I've researched too. There's some that you can put in, and like within 15 or 30 minutes of your expired time, it sends you a text that says, you're about to expire, and they give you a chance to go out and do it. And I'm sure there's many systems.
Yeah, I
that
believe
will
it.
do that. You weren't in that parking lot, were you?
Rick, would you like to proceed with the last two?
So,
Wait,
yeah,
I have-
Okay, hold on, there's a comment.
Are we moving on from the parking?
Yes, go ahead, Carol.
So, again, I'm sorry I'm a broken record, but, the parking study that the city had done for downtown parking specifically, the recommendation from that study is that there be a parking committee.
Right, that's an item on the agenda, on
Well-
the next page.
There is a parking committee, our parking department just doesn't acknowledge it.
So, I did get the open records request for the names of the parking committee and how many times they've met, and it's been one time. And, so,
I was
saw
part of that committee too, myself and Priscilla from Main Street.
Mr. Dickey was on there.
Yes,
So I hope that none of this moves forward without the without the meeting, the recreation of that committee, because the people, the users of the downtown parking, should be heard, including some of the people in this room, and what they go through with the parking.
sure.
Who oversees that committee?
Traffic department?
Yeah, moving on item E, I know we have this on our list, development of competitive procurement method for upcoming solicitation. I think we addressed that at one of the
Last-
previous meetings, so I think we might
That's done.
remove that from that. And then the last one, phase one.
Wait,
Go ahead.
that E is what?
Development.
I'm very interested in this competitive procurement method.
So I think at one of the previous meetings, we identified that with TxDOT, it was like a two-step process that was gonna be somewhat difficult to manage, to do it the way that we had talked about doing it. I think subsequent to that, we found out that, I think, because it's not on TxDOT, right away, or that it belongs to the city, that we can use the city's procurement methods. And so I think we've already talked with purchasing as far as being able to, do a competitive procurement method the way that we've discussed doing it, so.
As proposals as opposed to bid.
Correct.
So, I'm sorry,
This is for TIRZ,
Yes.
the phase one.
It says upcoming solicitation, but what is that?
Phase
This is phase one.
Phase one.
The projects that we're gonna cover with,
So how is TxDOT connected to that?
Well, we were just talking about phase one and phase two.
we were trying to see if we could use the same solicitation we were gonna use with TxDOT, but that became, well, once we met with them, it was more complicated. So we decided to go back and visit to what the city was doing, what they usually do, and found that there's already a way to award based on proposals as opposed to a solid base bid.
Okay, I just thought that I had volunteered to be connected to whatever the procurement method was gonna be for whoever gets the job to do the phase one. So you're saying that's done?
Hasn't started yet, that process hasn't started. We haven't initiated the solicitation yet.
No, right,
So
but
you
the-
wanna be part of?
Well, no,
of the-
I'm interested in the method. Last time I missed the whole method and everything, and I was sitting at the table, so I'm trying to.
Can you share that with her? Cause
I'm
we
trying
did
to-
spend some time at a prior meeting covering that method, but.
Yeah,
No, we
so-
don't have to talk about the method now, just if it's not been created, I would like to be a part of that.
Okay.
Of the creation of that method, to know how it's gonna be awarded. I'd like to see that,
So I will.
before it gets awarded.
Yeah, so before we submit it to bid, I can go through that document with you so that we can make sure that it's all on the same
You
page.
share it with everyone.
Yeah, we'll share it with everyone, but it's I guess it's through the e-bid system that the city has. Their typical way of doing it is just a straight low bid, and we don't wanna do that, cause we wanna be able to qualify the bidders somewhat, so that it's more competitive. There is a way to do that, so we're working on that format, and once we get that, we'll share it with everybody to make sure, before we even put it out to bid.
Oh, but it will go through
Yes,
the e-bid?
yes, yes.
Okay.
The last item, phase one project's ongoing design update, I think we can just, address this on the
Action item.
on the action item, yeah, so we can move forward.
Okay, we have one more present. Thank you, Rick, for all those updates. Appreciate that.
I just wanna comment, I'm sorry, wanna comment back on the parking issue. I mean, my only comment on that parking issue is that I agree with Ms. Alexander that the users need to be at the front of the discussion. Because, I mean, we are the ones that are parking there, people are parking there. Not sure we need a different committee, but we need, yes, some kind of voice on that matter. Because, I mean, for example, right now we have those codes that are on the parking meters. If you go and you try to scan the code, there's no signal in downtown area. So it's really very difficult to actually access anything like that app. So anything that is connected to Wi-Fi, to web, anything, it's very difficult. If it's the coins, it's very difficult. The credit cards is difficult. So, I mean, it's just trying to find a good solution. That's my only comment here, because it's difficult. Or are we improving the Wi-Fi for the entire downtown? You know, or that specific area? Not sure. Just a comment.
Yeah. So one option that we have, it's not for action, but is to convene something there at the Center for the Arts, once we're getting ready to, once we formulate something that's, essentially we are restriping and maybe deciding on how we're gonna collect money. That's, I think, the two main things, but if we wanna host something there, we're open to doing that at the location. I know there's folks there. I think generally I understood that this was advantageous for most people there.
It is.
Right, that's what, I mean, the intention is to increase parking and.
It's
the
adding 9 spaces,
accessibility.
correct?
Right.
Yes.
But did it at spaces? It did?
Yeah.
Yeah, so my last meeting with Mr. Peña, which was 2 weeks ago, I believe, on a Friday, we went through in great detail about my design approach, and generally he agreed that, you know, my design approach, I guess, was following standards and stuff. So it really is just, now the discussion was more of the implementation and what he would need to do to get it done. and the logistics behind it. I mean, there's a little bit of logistics behind, you know, like I said, removing some of those parking meter posts and relocating them. It's just a little bit of coordination that'll be required of his department or his and the parking meter department. But that was
the
generally
issues-
where we left off.
The issues that she's talking about is probably best for that parking committee, because she's talking about other things than the
Yeah.
parking spaces we're talking about doing.
Yeah.
She's having problems with the Wi-Fi, she's having problems with the credit card, she has, I mean, that's a
Yeah.
whole different animal.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
might be a different discussion.
I'd like to suggest we cover that when we get to the parking committee and maybe state that. I don't wanna impede progress on that project, you know, especially after we took it to council. I certainly wanna hear what the stakeholders have to say that actually are housed there. But I personally don't see a downside when you're adding 9 spaces,
Right.
potential kiosks. So, but I mean, your comments are well taken, I think maybe convening something, once we formulated something there, we can have an opportunity to, just like we did with the projects, have an open forum for people to see the product.
Especially when the product's gonna reduce spaces, well, yeah, you would want
Yeah.
public input, but if we're gonna add spaces, I don't foresee anybody not wanting added spaces.
Yeah, we want the spaces, but we also want the facility of using the space.
For it to
And,
work.
yeah, like for them to be functional,
Right.
optimal, available, easy to use. That might be it.
We'll invite them to the next meeting, we're gonna come back probably with a work authorization, we'll make sure that they're aware so they can join this next meeting.
Or you could put a sign that says doctor parking.
Yes,
Reserved.
reserved parking.
Yeah, I could do that.
That'd be awesome.
Right, we're gonna move on to item 9, presentation of summary of recent downtown inventory study by Laredo Main Street. Thank you, Dr. Liga, for being here and presenting this for us.
Yes.
Thank you, Henry. Appreciate you being here.
No problem. Just tell me. I'm sorry I missed it.
Yeah, second.
Well, does the board wanna take a discussion with the thing and we can give him, I mean,
It'll make
isn't
him
you
feel-
good?
it'll
Isn't
make-
it bad?
it'll make him
You know what I
feel-
mean?
Yeah, no, it's Photoshop.
Y'all can take a picture with the, with.
It'll make him feel bad for everybody.
Except for me.
Except for me.
Well, but it'll be a reminder of the board.
Yep.
I mean, if he doesn't, but I think you would appreciate that you all took a picture with it. I mean, no?
Yeah,
I'm just saying, I love
It's on the
pictures, that's
agenda,
why.
they said.
Well, then I
I mean, before you start, I'll just make a couple of comments. I think, you know, Mr. Castillo, I expressed that last meeting, but he was instrumental. I mean, during Henry's term, for me, he was always a good leading advisor, very level-handed, level-headed. I hold him and I really value him. So, you know, if he's not here right now, that's fine, we'll get him the plaque when he's available. But thank you, Henry,
Yeah,
for
of course,
making time to be here. Appreciate
and I
it.
too appreciate him for that exact reason. It was good to speak to someone, not that things got difficult, but when he's a calming voice.
Yes.
No, we don't have the money. There's something calming about that, it's final. Excuse me all, thank
Thank
you, it's
you.
good to see you all. Bye.
Henry was here.
Go ahead, Dr. Williams.
So, thank you for the invitation. I don't know if you have heard this information before. We presented to City Council. Can't remember the date, but we already presented to City Council. So this is, for everybody else to know, especially this group. I think that the chairs will be very interested in understanding, what's happening in the downtown area in terms of vacancy and economic activity that is happening. So I'm Dr. Marcelo Uribe, I'm the Executive Director of Laredo Main Street. We have our research team, we have several people working together to create this downtown inventory. Especially, we have a student from WU that was helping us, Ms. Alexander, who is an appraisal, she also gave us guidance to understand how the appraisal district worked. And then a couple of other people, Mr. Miguel Hernandez from City of Laredo, he is the GIS director, and he was also very instrumental in helping us with this project. The purpose of the project, they align with the objectives of the Viva Laredo plan in the downtown area to create a vacant building ordinance to encourage the use of existing structures instead of allowing them to sit vacant, detracting from a vibrant downtown development environment. This vacant building ordinance is already in existence, and it was approved by City Council on August 16, 2021. So the inventory is the second part of that vacant building. Also, it was very important to us because as Laredo Main Street, we are an organization that focuses on redevelopment. It was very important to match our goals of redevelopment with the city goals, and that was very important to us. The ordinance says that the area of study and the ordinance applies to the downtown area. We originally chose the Central Laredo Municipal Management District to be part of that area that we were studying, and we end up doing the entire area. But for the results and the analysis specifically of this presentation, we laser focus on the commercial business district because some of the pieces in the management district are residential, so we excluded those. And the commercial business district is where the majority of commercial buildings are located. So the blue here is the management district, the Central Laredo Municipal Management District, and the red is where the Central Business District is. So that's our area of study. In the north, you have Water Street. On the west, we have Santa Maria. I'm sorry, north is Victoria. East is Santa Ursula. North is Water Street, and west is Santa Maria. Sorry again, I have it.
South is Water Street, yeah.
South is
We
Water
understood what
Street.
you're doing.
Very good, you got me, okay. So just for you to understand, that's our square, right? We survey 381 properties. So in that square, there are 381 properties. However, 59 are not building structures. So what do I mean with that? Those are parking lots, the majority, 54 are parking lots. We have a couple of vacant lots. We have a couple, like an ATM, that's part of those, that area. So we excluded that from our sample. We have 322 buildings that are actual structures that we surveyed. The first finding that we have is that the buildings have been segmented to accommodate multiple uses. Also, one property may have multiple commercial purposes and sometimes vacant units within each property. And also each unit each unit segment might have its own address. So it was difficult at the beginning to identify, okay, is this an address for one building, or is this address is part of a building, or part or is part of a whole, what we call property ID. And then the results include each property ID in the area of focus and all visible commercial units per property and building ID. So what do I mean with this? For example, you must be familiar with La Única, where that La Única is. Okay, so in that area we have Los Angeles, which is a retail store. We have a vacant property, 202 Salinas. We have La Única, which is a restaurant, and we have a money exchange place, which is 212 Salinas. But if we look at this area in Webcat, which is here, you have the official address is 208 Salinas Avenue. That's the official address for that property. And then you have the square, I'm gonna stand up, excuse me. So this one here is the retail store. This is the vacant building. And these two are La Única and the exchange place. So you have four what we call commercial units within one property ID. Okay, so we counted everything. We counted the properties, and our survey allowed for identifying the multiple units within that one property ID. Okay? So, that gives us our first big finding, which is we have a total of 322 buildings. 63% have a single commercial unit. 37% have multiple commercial units. And then in total, we have 581 total commercial units. So our first finding is that to understand the commercial impact of the downtown, we need to think about not only buildings, but also commercial units because of this segmentation, okay? From the 322 total buildings, 165 buildings are 100% occupied. And then from those, we have 54 with some level of vacancy. What do I mean with this? Sometimes we have one commercial unit, one Webcat property ID, one Webcat unit that is in half of it is vacant, half of it is occupied. So that gives us, sometimes we have 25% vacant, sometimes we have between 26% and 50% vacant within that property. Sometimes we have 51% to 75% vacant, and sometimes we have 76% to 99% vacant. Like we found one building that was almost 100% occupied, except for a little piece that was vacant, right? So that we call some level of vacancy within the property. And then we found 103, 100%, which is 32% of the buildings, 100% vacant. These buildings are those that are closed, that don't have anything inside, that are 100% vacant. Because of this vacancy continuum, I will call, between fully occupied to fully vacant, if we tally everything, that gives us 49.4% of the buildings that are either fully vacant or have some level of vacancy. So 49.4% of the buildings have some level of vacancy. So half of the buildings or half of the structures in Laredo downtown have some level of vacancy. 103 are fully vacant, 32%, sorry. This is a visual of what that means in the downtown area. We have, the green is non-vacant, so they are occupied, they have some kind of commercial activity. Blue is parking lot, and then red is vacant, and the light blue, light green or light yellow are public plazas. So this is what we have in the downtown area. And you can see we tally, and for example, this building, this over here, this is one property that has one corner that is occupied, but then everything else is vacant. That's what we mean with partial vacancies. We try to record everything we possibly can from the exterior, from what we saw. There might be a limitation, we might need to talk more with the building owners, but at least we have an understanding when you go through the streets of Laredo and think, oh, everything is vacant, or no, everything is occupied. That's what this is what you look at. So our first research question was to identify, okay, so what are the trends in vacancy in the buildings in the downtown Laredo area, right? But then our second research question was connected about what is the actual economic activity that is happening in the downtown area. So it's not only about what is vacant, but what is actually happening in those buildings that are not vacant. So our finding was that retails continue to be the most prominent activity in the downtown area, and those retail stores are specifically specialized in the market that serve our international border and the Mexican market. That's your perfume stores, that's your duty-frees, all of those import stores that we have in the downtown area, those are retail serving our Mexican counterparts. From the 581 commercial units, we have 335 that are occupied. And from those are 24.2% retail. And then the next most important economic activity are restaurants and bars with 8%. And then we have residential, professional services, for example, the lawyers, the accountants, anybody that offers a professional service, that's more like 4.9%. And then financial services, that encompass all the banks and all the money exchange stores that we have in the downtown area. So you can see we have 42.8% vacant units within those 581. And those units can be filled somehow, we believe. We also, okay, so we found out that we don't have a lot of empty lots. We have vacant buildings, right? If we want to redo something in the downtown area, we're gonna have to reuse the building. So we asked on our survey, so what is the historical significance of the building, and what is the overall appearance or overall shape of the building, right? Because these are the ones that are gonna be reused, repurposed. So from the 103 total vacant buildings, 68.7 might have some historical significance because they are older than 50 years old. And I mean, of course, historical significance is not only because of the age of the building, it's also because they are part of history, they have a specific
connection to some historical event.
Right, connection
person.
to historical event, person, and historical style, right? If they are Art Deco or whatever historical style, that is also important for historic preservation. So the vacant buildings have a lot of potential to be historical significant. So we will have to look into that as well. Then we also found 103 vacant buildings that are fully vacant and in very poor conditions. Those might be endangered, those might need to be removed at some point or have a bigger investment to reuse those buildings. I mean, we all know this house, that house is on the Iturbide Street with Santa Ursula. That is what we call an endangered building. And of course, our recommendations again is to increase the capacity for economic development through housing. I mean, these buildings, most of them are 2 or 3 stories, or some of them. We did record that, how many stories are within each building. Those can be housing, those can be used mixed housing on top, commercial in the bottom. Also, to diversify the retail. So what is available in terms of retail downtown, what can be used or repurposed for other type of economic activities. And of course, we need to revise the building and preservation codes to accommodate the downtown specific development needs, adopt a rehabilitation code, facilitate the reuse of both historic and non-historic buildings downtown. So those were our recommendations for the evening. And that's it. So again, we believe that a key of successful downtown is to imagine possibilities. I think that this can allow us to imagine what can happen in the future and how can we serve our downtown and actually reactivate the economy of this area. Thank you.
Report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for making the time to be here, and I'm looking at that image from some conference center activity there. I see myself up there. Somebody, one of your team members put my face up there.
Was it? That was before my
It's
time.
funny that's out there, like, where did that come from? See the guy on the left
Yeah,
up there?
yeah, with the suit.
Yeah.
All
Ah,
suited up.
yes, yes.
We used to have Frank on a bike in front of that door right there. There's different people. You might be in one of them, Edward.
Hopefully not. He's right there. Right by the car. Selling hot dogs.
Oh, yeah.
I'm the guy giving the ticket on the park card.
Yeah.
So, thank you for the work and for coming and educating us on this topic. Some of us worked on that vacant building ordinance. I don't think we envisioned as much as you broke down the multi-use, the multiple buildings. One question I had is when you came up with the percentage for that property, is it based on square footage?
No.
How did you base the percentage?
It was, for example, it was a simple division. We tally 5 units. How many are these occupied or vacant? It's not per square footage. We didn't do that.
Okay. Any questions or comments for Dr. Uribe? Carol, thank you for your work on that committee as well. It helps to have an appraiser involved for sure.
Yes, Carol was very great in, for example, making us understand that there's a code that is 1799. That means that you don't have an idea of
Yeah.
when was that building built. I was like, oh, we have 20 more historical buildings, and she was like, no, that's a code for unknown. I was like, oh, okay, thank you.
Code for
Yeah.
unknown.
Yes, code for unknown. I was like, okay, thanks. Yeah.
Council member, without putting you on the spot, but some of the recommendations are, is the city moving those ahead, or should we entertain some and come back
So-
with this board?
The plan at council was to meet with Mr. Neb, and to review some of the recommendations and look at next steps, but ideally we could do that together.
Okay, great. If you need a rep from this group, just.
Yes,
Just let us
he's
know.
out for around 2 weeks, so as soon as he gets back, I'll.
Okay, just so we give this continuation, right, follow up.
Absolutely.
Could we go to the recommendations?
Yes, can you go back to the,
And
so,
so the missing group that would address this, I mean, you know, Mr. Neb and an occasional counselor, and, but the core group of advocates to advocate for these recommendations and other recommendations, will not be fixed by 1 or 2 or 3 champions
yeah,
for downtown, because we're big enough now that if we, I mean, the missing group is an issue. One that can, a
you say
formal
missing,
group.
are you talking about the
that-
property owner, or?
I'm talking about the business district that a couple of people around this table on that side, could speak to.
Yeah.
But, those recommendations are interesting,
So-
and also the lack of anybody that I have found at the city that is connected to that. And that was through open records request to find out who's taking care of this who's taking care of the central business district? And the answer is, nobody knows. If anyone here knows, let me know.
Yeah. So I just wanna make sure we have follow-up as we kick off this solicitation. I think we'll have more time to come back with uses for, escrows, TIRZ escrows that are sitting, you know, in our, in the city's, you know, bank book. So I think we could entertain helping with, you know, move some of those ahead. Facade, I think we'll come back soon, the facade program, so that maybe we could discuss facade as it relates to a building that can provide housing and connect incentives back to that. Yeah, EDA would probably, the Economic Development Committee would be also important to line that up.
So, just a quick question, as an appraiser, how do you appraise a vacant building? You know, nowadays, values are going up in neighborhoods, you know, everybody's house values are going up, but these are obviously abandoned buildings, I guess, downtown. How are they being valued? How do you?
Are you speaking to me as an appraiser or as a downtown stakeholder taxpayer?
As an appraiser. I
Those
get
are
what
two-
you're gonna say,
Those are
yeah.
two distinct hats.
Right, because, it's empty, so you use the income approach to this, you can't, because there's no income, right? So now what's happening, it's just a market comparison, and that's.
It's complicated. Yeah,
So-
there's no easy answer, you know, it's, every building would be different.
So that was one of the things tackled during the vacant building ordinance scripting of it, like, cause there's the next phase of treating these abandoned properties as they were, as if they were operational and taxing them as such. That's kinda like the phase two. You know, that's not in the ordinance, but that would be a potential, right, if somebody's just sitting, it's in bad shape, it doesn't get any attention, could be a phase two for the ordinance. I'm not suggesting that, I'm saying those are some things other cities have done, at the right time for them.
Well, yeah, because if you own that building and you don't wanna pay a lot of taxes on it, because obviously you're not gonna fix it up, you're gonna keep it run down and everything, because anything that can help you not have to pay more taxes, but that kind of hurts.
It'll never get
because
operational.
It'll never get operational, right?
But, Mr. Morano, that really, you almost are speaking to the objective of redeveloping downtown, because why do it, right? If you go through these little pile of papers, there's all kinds of money being spent on the city, at the college, with the county, for the water, for fire, for police, for, any number of things. But downtown, and this is, what was his name, Joe Minicozy, worked for the city of Laredo. He developed Joe Minicozy is, something you should look at, because we
He
all,
came to speak, no?
at this table, yeah.
Mhm.
Right, he did he
Presentation.
didn't work for the city, but he had a contract to show what a redeveloped downtown brings in terms of dollars to the general fund at a city.
Oh, no doubt.
And, well, you know, it's math, right? And because a stakeholder would rather have their building fully rented out and paying the taxes, right, that go into the general fund. And I know at city council, there's 8 counselors sitting there, and some of them feel like they represent their district, but they're not recognizing that District 8 supports all of the districts through the taxes that people with vacant buildings, what they pay, because of the rate that a vacant downtown building supports all of the districts, and it would support them better, of course, if it was thriving and vibrant down here, because it would provide more to the general fund. So downtown belongs to every district, and a functioning, viable, vibrant, active downtown is better for every district. So missing that point, right? So even vacant buildings are paying, well, and I had done this, a vacant building downtown was paying more per square foot than, the commercial, property at the corner of, McPherson and Delmar, HEB. a vacant downtown building pay more per square foot than an operating HEB at the corner of Del Mar and McPherson. You know, that's not right.
Yeah, density subsidizes suburban
Exactly.
development and big box.
Exactly,
box
so it's
suburbs.
in everybody's best
Vertical.
interest. It's in the city's best interest, and it provides a destination for our university that's growing, our college that's growing, our medical community that's growing. Our new Jovita quarter that's going nationwide, that we could do something downtown I mean, we have the park, but we could do something downtown to recognize that. And our city is growing, and it's, I mean, every indication is gonna get bigger, and we can be a destination, but.
So another recommendation is to develop, specific commercial hubs. So for example, develop logistics and technology, in the downtown area. That might be one type of commercial development that we haven't tapped into, that we can bring to the table. And those might need some kind of incentives or programs, specific programs, things that you can put together as a city and say, okay, if you have an innovative idea, we're gonna give you 5 months of rent in this building downtown for you to create whatever product. Those type of things.
Judy, when are you gonna release the report, or?
October the 2nd.
Okay, great, so we can circulate it to the group. I wish we had more time, we're gonna be close to 2 hours, and we haven't gone to Edward, so I'd like to move on to the next topic on the agenda. Thank you very much, Dr. Vega, thank you everybody for your contributions to this discussion. Item 10 is update, presentation, and discussion with possible action to approve the TIRZ #1 final design and construction drawings for Phase 1 improvement projects, and authorization to initiate the competitive procurement proposal solicitation process to carry out the scope of work, subject to coordination with the City of Laredo Engineering Department. Edward?
If I could sit here first.
Yeah.
You already had it.
It's up there, it's at the top.
Oh, this. Okay, so we've essentially completed our package for what we call 100%, review. In discussion with Mr. Chavez at Engineering, he wants to circulate this and just make sure that the departments all kind of give their final blessing on it. But just kind of a quick summary for everybody. We did some pretty extensive coordination and design with fire department. We believe we've got things kind of situated there. We've met with utilities department and have coordinated with utilities department. And they are in agreement. They've already worked, from what we understand, they've already worked on some of these blocks and have done some upgrading already. They do have some upgrading plans for some of the blocks that are involved in our project. And in meeting with Mr. Garcia, he's agreed to stay ahead of us, essentially. He's doing mainly rehabilitation work on the pipes, so I don't believe the work is gonna be, the work that he's gonna be doing ahead of us is gonna be demolishing the streets per se. A lot of it's, from what I'm understanding, is kind of underground rehab that'll occur. But he's gotten the list of our blocks and has agreed to kind of stay ahead. So we believe we've coordinated with him. And then traffic department is, we've coordinated several times with the traffic department. I believe we probably have just maybe one more final meeting with the traffic department just to finalize some minor details. But for the most part, what we've got really hasn't changed a whole bunch from the last couple of meetings. Again, the last meetings that we had presented something, we're just fine tuning of some design elements related to the different meetings with the different departments, so.
Does the board wanna cover anything in particular that we haven't covered before? Is there anything that has changed that was since your last presentation?
I don't
believe so, not in a major way. I guess I'll just say the general organization, and I know we've talked about this a couple of times, but the way we've decided to organize these plans is kind of on a block by block basis. So the very first plan sheets here, for example, this would be, block one, existing. So then you have block one existing, block one demo, block one proposed improvements, block one grading, block one utilities, block one striping, block one traffic control. Then you go to block two. So, I believe, and we had maybe discussed this at the very beginning, is trying to organize this in such a way that when it goes out for bidding, it gives us some flexibility, you know, depending on how the bids come in, to possibly, you know, look at some blocks, maybe, they get pushed into another phase or something like that, but, so instead of putting, you know, existing one, existing two, existing three, existing four, we've kind of set them up on a block by block basis, so. What you'll see here, like this is block one existing, block one demo, block one proposed, block one grading, block one utilities, and then the traffic control. And the traffic control is kind of another real final thing that we'll need to visit with the traffic department on. And I think I've mentioned it before, is, you know, we can come up with a traffic pattern, you know, to allow the contractor to work on the specific block. But I believe, you know, in the things that happen downtown, you know, if we're building during Christmas time and we're on the Zaragoza block, which is right by the bridge, you know, that's probably gonna affect bridge operation and so on. So there might need to be some flexibility in doing that, or allowing the contractor to submit an alternative traffic control plan, or maybe the traffic department might say, hey, we need to move traffic in a different route. So I'm trying to be mindful of that aspect of it. But no, for the most part, we don't have any specific area that really has changed much from the last time.
Arturo, have you seen, for the block where you're at, have you seen the latest version?
No.
Let's
That's
show.
that kind of-
Yeah, so so your block, Arturo, would be block 5. So that's gonna be this sheet.
Well, if I may.
Sure, go ahead.
Mr. Chairman. The main concern that I just had there was, my properties, which are on the south side, I had 3 existing driveways, and I was willing to give up one in the sake of trying to make it more pedestrian friendly. Accordingly, also, anybody that knows anything, the city owns 50% of the building on the corner, which is the Veterans Museum, the proposed Veterans Museum. And, they got 3 driveways, and I'm trying to see if they eliminated that one too, because it was never necessary when Public Works, went out there and did that.
We've noted.
Yeah, that one's not necessary. Even the designs that, you know, Rick is familiar with, you know, from Metaform, that designed it for the county, doesn't have any driveways there. So, I mean, I'm willing to give up my driveway if that driveway is given up too.
On the museum
north
side?
side.
So, so this would be our proposed site plan, and again, we were just representing, or, you know, if something was there, we tried our best to.
Como decían, answer the question.
Yeah.
So are they eliminating the driveway on the
No.
north side?
At this time, no.
Then I want mine on the south side to remain.
Okay.
It's 811 Iturbide. I need 2 driveways.
So so here on the south side, I'm gonna go from Santa Úrsula west to San Bernardo. So this first driveway is the driveway to the parking lot, the city parking lot.
Mhm.
There was a driveway here.
Yeah, so then I need
That
no,
one.
there is a driveway there existing.
There is
right
one
now.
there, yes, there is one
I
there.
was willing to give that one
That's
up
the one, yeah.
if in proposition that, you know, the north one, that's not utilized, useless, not in any future plans for the county city building, I was willing to do that.
Sure. I mean,
And that's a board decision on that,
that's-
but.
So,
Have we
yes, ma'am.
asked?
I'm sorry, I may have missed this, but did you all look at the schematic plans for the Veterans Museum that they had for
No,
Iturbide Street?
not part of this, no, ma'am.
Okay, because I know they had some thoughts on
Driveways.
what that sidewalk would look
Well,
like.
we have time to do that.
There's time to do that. I mean, that's,
Just-
That's a very easy fix.
I'm willing to eliminate mine if that one's eliminated.
Okay.
In the sake of pedestrian, hey, it's, but if it's
To
not.
create
then-
walkability
Yes,
on
yes,
both
I mean,
sides.
if your city county's not willing to sacrifice, and I'm not willing to sacrifice.
So I was proposing
Sound like
that
the city and the county.
that area right there, that they push it back for future buses, like school buses that pull up to let the kids off to go to the museum, that they push that back so that they have a way to get off the street and have a drop-off point. If that's the case, then that would get rid of that driveway that you're talking about. Cause where else are they gonna drop off their students?
You're showing just one driveway, you're saying to eliminate all driveways on that side?
No, no, no.
No, he's saying this one.
This one right here,
They talk
if
about
you go out there,
museum
you
there.
bring a aerial,
let me
it's
do
an
it.
old car lot that's not historically significant.
You're saying just keep one driveway there?
It's got two driveways on
Okay,
the San
'cause he's
Bernardo
just showing
side,
one.
for the front and side. I'm just saying that you're not killing their access, because they already have access on San Bernardo side, and on two sides, the front and the rear of the building.
So, what we did was,
So you see how it's a useless driveway, it's never been used, I mean.
yeah, so,
The 15 years that I've owned the, no, 20 years that I've owned the building, I've never seen it utilized.
yeah, so this portion that doesn't have the striping,
That's the driveway you show.
that's the driveway I showed.
And there, that's, you're saying which other driveway?
So,
Well,
for
that's the only
Arturo's property,
I have
he's got
two.
this one, and this one.
Yeah, that's
to-
individual,
and
I just
that-
wanna maintain one for each one, but, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
not willing to sacrifice the other one that can be utilized also.
I'm sorry, Edward, I just don't see the multiple driveways on the
So,
museum side, can you go there?
Let me, so on the museum side,
The one San Bernardo.
oh, they haven't one on
They have
this side.
two.
Yeah, two, there's one here, well, no, I'm sorry, that's the red.
One there.
They have one here, it's painted red, but this is low here, and you see the gate?
That's a driveway.
Yeah, they have one there, I don't know where the other one is.
In the rear.
Well, but
Oh,
frankly,
in the
frankly,
rear
that
of the-
area will never be parking, at least based on their old plans.
Yeah.
The parking
And you're
is gonna
saying
be
they have
back
one here to
Exactly.
this rear opening, this rear spot?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right there.
So, usually, I mean, the general perspective that we take is, if there's a driveway, then you put it back unless there's been some guidance, like in the case of Mr. Garcia coming to us before and said, hey, I'm willing to give it up, then we eliminate it.
But I
At
mean,
this
I
point in
thought-
the game, it's just approaching.
I thought we were all sacrificing,
Yeah.
together, so. Let's just, Mr. Garcia sacrifice.
That wasn't my fault, Mr. Garcia. But from his side, so, Mr. Garcia, just so you see, this is one here. This driveway, because of its proximity to this driveway, it is all kind of laid flat right now. So just so you see,
Yeah.
this is a driveway and it's kind of tied together with
So
this.
you kept all the driveways?
So no, he's got this
No.
one and this one,
I
but
eliminated
we
one.
eliminated this one here. So this driveway, so everybody sees, is what he has right here.
That's been eliminated in your
Yes.
drawings?
Yes.
Yes.
Under
That-
an agreement that,
Yes.
Yes, correct.
Well, I thought that it was gonna be more pedestrian friendly.
okay. Well, I mean, at this point, should we visit with the city and county to see if they have an opportunity?
That's-
So, I wanna understand your request, is, you're
Is it
looking
what-
at the entire property, you just want one driveway for the entire property?
If that one's eliminated, then you can just leave me with the way it is right now that you designed it.
Okay.
But if I'm the only one sacrificing a driveway,
Cause his property has two driveways.
then no.
But this one only has one,
No,
on,
it's
on,
got-
on
no, it's
this,
got three.
on this street. On
this one,
Iturbide, it only has one.
Yeah, but there's a driveway.
There's two on San Bernardo.
Okay.
I mean, we're not doing
It's got
any
access,
improvements on
it's
San
got-
Bernardo.
And the
I
fact
mean,
of the matter is, that's always been envisioned as a plaza,
Mhm.
so it's not like vehicles were gonna get.
I haven't seen the rendering, so I guess we could look at that.
I have.
Yeah,
And does it have a driveway there?
No.
Then we probably don't need it.
Exactly, that's my point.
Okay.
So that's why I was like, willing to eliminate
You just wanna
mine.
No, it
be
makes-
sure that it happens.
Yes,
That's
what he said.
so there's probably a way to make
If
a
they
driveway.
wanna build a
out.
driveway later, they can do it later, they
No,
can-
I'm not, I agree with you, for walkability, it would be great to have a smooth, a level surface all the way through, as far as you can take it. And if they want a driveway, they can go in through the, San Bernardo side.
Correct.
But again, that's always been sort of envisioned as a plaza.
So he's, he's making the condition, if we can't achieve that concession from the city and county, then he doesn't give one driveway, so we make a note of that. But I think we should try that, especially if it's been designed without the driveway there.
So, I mean, I'll say just so that we can get through the discussion on this for Mr. Garcia's purpose, adding this is just as easy as removing that one. So, that allows us to do,
I thought it was
once we get once we get the direction of, if we can remove that one, and it's agreed that we can take that one out, then we'll take that one out.
Yeah.
If for some reason that doesn't work, I can add Mr. Garcia's driveway back just as easy.
Yeah.
From a design perspective, that's easy to add and remove.
And then
Okay.
you said a statement earlier that the city utilities department told you that they were gonna rehab the water lines. What exactly does that mean?
So they didn't get into great detail with me on the different rehab options that they're looking at. I do have a follow-up meeting. This past Friday afternoon, I got a call from Mr. Chavez, who was meeting with them. They wanted to meet with me to discuss what they were gonna do and what we could do on our end. So, don't quote me on this. I know one rehab method is you go in and you sleeve the pipes, right?
Okay.
So that might be one. They did not specifically tell me on this block we're sleeving, on this block we're removing, on this block. I don't have that information, but,
But we will have it at some point, right?
we will, so the direction was to give Mr. Garcia Utilities Department our plans and the order of what we had anticipated construction, which I think we all agreed was just block order 1 through 9. And so, he said he would stay ahead of us with his improvements or with his.
And he's had drawings from us now for several months.
Several months, yeah. I mean, the drawings again have been updated generally, but as it relates to him, there's not really much of a change. So he's aware of that.
Yeah, the water's still coming out orange, so, yeah, so just.
Well, that's an important issue.
I know it's all downtown, but, just.
Well, I think as because the last thing we want is to make improvements and pull our improvements out of there, so I am curious too because I don't know how you rehab a water line.
That's why
You can do a sewer, inset, but I don't know, but I think we can find out.
I can inquire.
I mean, if you're
water is
talking about
replacement.
like a sleeve within, I mean, that'd probably be a good solution.
But not water.
Water is replacement.
Yeah.
Oh,
And we've talked in places where we would sleeve pipe for the future so that they don't have to break our stuff. They would just come back in. So that's something we can do. So if we know your line is old and is gonna be replaced, we'll sleeve a new pipe so that they don't have to break the sidewalk. They'll just go to the public right away and make that connection on the street,
Yeah,
not
because-
break your sidewalk.
Cause the same argument that's been used by by management and city utilities director is that the properties have the problem. It's not the properties, they've been plumbed, new PVC, new PEX, so it's not from the property line in.
Yeah.
It's a city's line. So I just wanna keep reiterating to management that, too bad the city manager's not here for his first meeting. So.
Maybe it's a good thing he's not here.
All right, any other comments?
Well, I did have a question about, I know Mr. Ochoa said that there haven't been many changes, and he's been very accommodating with me to show me the
Mhm.
changes on Zaragoza Street. But I did hear that on Zaragoza and Convent, that's an important, the four
Intersection,
corners.
yes.
That the traffic department wanted to only stripe and allow for crossing on the north side. And, if you sit out there at La Mina, on the corner there.
Yes.
You can watch the way the traffic goes.
Edward, how do you have it right now?
Right, it's right here. I guess I'll just.
If you could
Go
show
ahead,
that
head on.
intersection on Google.
I'll hit it head on, cause we're
If you
we're at the
That's
end,
it.
we're at the end, that's it. So, there has been some discussion, and there had been some comments from the traffic department about not crossing pedestrians on the north side of the intersection, which would be right here. And
Not crossing them on the
not
north side.
crossing it. He's brought that point out to me and I don't know if he was at one of the meetings or what, but, the logic and the idea there is currently, and I think we talked about this maybe at meetings months ago. Currently, you have a traffic signal right here that you have a movement that goes green and allows these cars to turn. Then you have another movement that goes green and allows the cars coming from Bridge 1 and from Water Street up this way and goes north on Convent. Then you have a third traffic.
That traffic is only coming, from my understanding, from the bridge. There's no way to get from Water Street up here. That's
I
all
mean,
bridge traffic.
It's all bridge traffic, but there is, my understanding is if you get to the Bridge 1, like if you're going to Mexico, there's a bypass, so, I mean, I'm sure there's minor traffic that goes through there, but nonetheless, it's open, and there's also businesses that are down in there, there's a few businesses, there's storefronts. I'm not sure how they access or loading, but anyways, there's a lane that comes straight and a lane that comes off the bridge, so you have two vehicular phasing movements, so one is this way, one is this way, but he has to put a third traffic signal phasing movement for pedestrians to cross on this north side. So if you think about a pedestrian crossing here, this pedestrian cannot cross simultaneously with this movement, and it cannot cross simultaneously with this movement.
So that's
So
already
he's a
in
third
action.
phasing, yeah. So again, I'm simply stating kind of the technical side of how he explained it to me. If you remove this pedestrian movement and just allow them to cross here, then he can remove that phasing from the traffic signal, and it would allow more time for these cars and more time for the cars going straight. That's how it was explained to me, so I'm simply stating what I was told. I know at the board level here, I've been told to keep the pedestrian movement. What you see right there shows the pedestrian movement still there.
Oh, on
The
north side.
existing pedestrian movement is still there.
On both sides.
On both sides.
And Edward.
So you
scope-
see here, we have a ramp that comes, excuse me, Mr.
Sure.
Joy. We have a ramp that comes down, so the pedestrian will walk down here and cross here. And there'll be a crosswalk that we'll note, on our striping plan, but you'll be able to cross here. Then if you come on the south side, which currently you can, there's that wall here, this hatching is a storm grate, trench grate that's there, but you can cross this way, and you can cross this way, and you can cross this way. So what we show on our design is crossing in all four directions. Now, traffic department did not agree with that. They did not really agree with keeping this moving. His statement was, I can make the vehicular traffics move better if that movement is removed. And I've said it, I think at a couple of meetings, and that's what it is.
Right, Edward, does our scope include removing and reinstalling traffic for pedestrian devices?
No.
Or does he have to do that?
The pedestrian devices, they're just, I guess, not turned on, not visible on here, but the pedestrian devices are staying exactly where they are.
Okay, we're not removing.
Yeah, we're not removing them.
Are you able to show that on Google Earth so that?
Sure.
Cause I'd like you to see that.
No, I've looked it
Okay.
with them. And we really just need Mr. Neb and Peña here.
So, let me get to the bottom end here.
All of us have walked there, yeah.
Yeah, I think we've all kind of seen it. Oh, I got backwards.
So,
Well,
can I make some comments as you're finding that? So,
Yes.
my personal opinion, the belief that pedestrians will stay on the south side or on the north side, if he was to pick one or the other, doesn't make sense. People cross there, there's a lot of pedestrian traffic. In fact, that's one corner we've discussed in the past of even closing that other side of Zaragoza if it made sense, but there's a lot. If there's pedestrian traffic, it's here, and then it's one block over, west on Salinas, there's a lot of pedestrian traffic. To try to kind of command it to one side would be very difficult. So I think the plans reflect what our understanding is. unless the rest of the board feels differently, but
Yeah, so, I guess, Ms. Alexander, this is the north side, there's currently crossing there. This is the east side, there's crossing there. There's the west side, there's crossing there, and then you can see the crosswalks there. So, the only problem with this one is you can see there's crosswalks to nowhere, cause there's no ramp. But we're adding a ramp, so there will be a ramp there, or there will be a means to access on this corner from an ADA perspective.
Right.
ADA standpoint.
Well, I just see it as, I understand he sees it from traffic, cause he's the traffic director, but we're putting a bunch of money into the pedestrian movement, especially on Zaragoza, and now we're trying to divert the traffic to cross south, cross over, then cross back north, and then go like that. I mean, that is.
yeah. So I think this is gonna
Unless you
evolve
see
into,
otherwise.
Ramon, you know, I guess collaborating with departments and then coming back, and ultimately it'll be probably the city manager's decision to see what gets built, but, I think we'll leave the plans as is unless this board feels differently.
Yeah, so again, what you see here, and this is part of our coordination with the fire department, but this particular intersection, you would be essentially ramping down to an area that you will be able to cross through here. Now, one thing I will add, and this is kind of a final, hopefully a final, meeting with the traffic department that I need to coordinate, is there may be we may potentially have to put a couple of bollards here, just to help with traffic. We're still kind of researching that. The fire department was okay with bollards if they were removable. So, you know, they can, if there's an emergency and they needed to make this turn and their vehicle was getting a little bit too tight in here, they could maybe just real quickly.
Like what's that Grant, or what's that,
What are the bollards?
Flores and?
So, there currently are bollards right here, like
Right.
Yeah.
something like this.
Yeah.
So
What are they for on that other side?
Well, on this.
Somebody would get hit by a car if somebody driving.
Yeah, so, yeah, we're still kind of going back and forth with him on what we're finding as the guidance, the national guidance on bollards or protections there. It's really at the discretion of the engineer. And so it would be at the discretion of either myself as the signing engineer or him as the city.
It wouldn't hurt to put them in, right, and if they don't seem needed, you don't put them on the surface.
So we talked about providing, we talked about redoing these bollards, which we'll have a detail. Cause these bollards you can see currently stick up out of the ground, so
Yeah.
somebody is a bump that somebody could run over. But in redoing this particular area, we talked about taking these out, and we've got a bollard detail where you have essentially a steel, pipe that slides into
Right.
another steel pipe.
You either put them in or you don't.
Yeah, you put them in and, you know, you can slide them in and out. And so the fire department can move them if there's an emergency that required them to have to run over that portion of the sidewalk. So that was something that we coordinated with them.
I don't know if we would.
But that's the intersection.
But the bollards are not aesthetically pleasing, right?
Sure.
So if we put bollards at the corner of Zaragoza and Convent, you know,
Well, he doesn't have bollards on his drawings.
yeah, it's like using a safety pin for your prom dress.
Yeah, well, you know, and in lies the, you know,
He doesn't have
the liability, right? And
Safety pin right here.
it sits on me, you know? So there's that discussion on it. I mean, there's various ideas to bollards.
Mr. Lemay, you have a comment?
Well, two things. One, can you send me this slideshow? I don't think I ever got a copy of that. I'd really like that, so
Sure.
I could look at it in more detail.
Okay.
But the other thing is regarding the traffic and diverting it around. Do we have any information on how, you know, deadly this intersection is? How much it is, you know, how many pedestrians are getting hit here? We need to, I think, consider that
Good
health
point.
and safety factor, that it might be the best way to divert the pedestrian traffic around and not allow them to cross on that side if it's a safety concern.
Right.
And similarly with the fire, putting bollards in there, how much time is that gonna take away from them servicing the public? If they have to stop there, get them out of the way on that corner. So my concern and my thought is, what's gonna be safest for the pedestrian traffic that we're trying to encourage to be there. We wanna protect them. And I think that's just my comments there about this, that those thoughts came to my mind,
Yeah,
so.
no, that makes sense. I don't know the answer to the first question. I don't know if we've looked at, accidents and pedestrian accidents in the downtown.
I believe the city traffic department has some of that data, that we can look at and ask them for.
Can you
That
review
if
that?
you get with the department heads, they could bring all that information forward, that we could make a better decision.
Yeah.
That area is really heavy on pedestrians, like a lot of people walk around that area, specifically that area. And then there are in other cities, I don't know, technology that make these things go down automatically. So maybe something to consider. I don't know if we have the budget for that, but that's an option. But yeah, there's a lot of pedestrians.
Like a collapsing bollard.
Yeah, like a
Press a
collapse.
button, it collapses.
Yeah.
Right, where we could
Right.
give something to
I don't know if
the
it
fire
exists, I just
department or
made that up.
something, so they can hit it in advance when they're coming up on the
Exists,
corner.
just how much-
and do
Yeah,
timing.
Right, exactly.
everything exists for a cost.
Yeah.
Everything can be designed for a cost.
That would be something to look into.
Sure, I mean,
Retractables.
the idea there is that if a vehicle does cut the corner a little bit, then is there a safe place for somebody to step back?
Right, behind those to protect themselves. I
Sure.
get that.
Yeah.
But we don't wanna sacrifice, our emergency services, paramedic, whoever's trying to get through there to not be able to make that corner. And I did see from, the camera view, if we're changing the way things are there, are we gonna be changing the dimensions of the intersection, and it's gonna be narrower and harder to provide services around that corner?
So-
Thoughts on coming up?
Yeah, certainly, good thoughts. I will say that one thing that we did do in our extensive coordination with the fire department is we actually went out there and they brought their fire trucks and they maneuvered the turns. There was only one fire truck that is not the more common one brought
The ladder
downtown.
truck that had the
The
three-point
bigger
turn.
ladder truck.
Okay.
And the bigger ladder truck was the only one that, probably would run over some of this, Andrea,
Yeah.
right? It wasn't as much as what our video was in the field, because we had a different design. We actually redesigned this intersection to allow for the largest City of Laredo ladder truck to probably just run over some portion of this right here.
Was that what you showed in the last meeting?
Yes, sir.
That first meeting I was there,
Yes, sir.
that video? Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And so their everyday ladder truck that they bring downtown makes that maneuver without
Okay.
even running over the sidewalk.
We just have to look at where the trees were. I noticed that was one issue, that one of the trees was too large,
There's-
and they had a three-point turn because they
Yes,
were
sir.
gonna hit the tree, not because of the curve. So that's
That's-
another,
that's
even though
correct.
it's aesthetics and we want the tree, if it's blocking a safety thing, I'm sorry, I feel like we gotta take that precedent. That's just my opinion. The safety has to come over the, put a fake tree in that they can run over. I'm okay with it, but from that side.
The fire department, I will say, has made a lot of concessions in allowing this design that we have today. So
Okay.
I really commend them and thank them for working with us on that. But I will say that one of the concessions that they did make was like, hey, I know y'all wanna add trees, be considerate of our maneuver. If a fire truck turns this way, he's gonna be hugging the outside. If you wanna put a tree at this intersection, don't put it on the outside, consider putting it on the inside, it doesn't bother us. So that's
Right.
something for us in this project, and then moving forward in all future projects, be mindful of their maneuver. And let's
Set
just.
yourself back.
Let's just put the
We
tree
also
on the
need
other side.
smaller fire trucks.
Yeah.
On that note, I have to run, I'm so sorry, but thank you all so much,
Yeah.
and I'll
I would like to make a motion on this item at this point, that we accept the final design as presented by our design team, and that we allow, our consultants, our design consultants to work with not allow them, but direct them to work with the city engineering department and make any reasonable improvements on these documents. If it's something substantial, come back to the board and inform them, but if it's a minor tweak, that happened, that's one part of the motion. The second part is to note the request by Mr. Garcia over the driveway and proceed in that manner once you reach out to the city and the county for that Veterans Museum.
Second.
It's been seconded by Mr. Navarro. Any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? None, motion passes. Thank you very much. Item 11 is discussion of possible action, and we've kind of covered this item, to finalize and adopt the TIRZ number 1. We are still probably another 30 days from this. This is to adopt the mural and storefront program guidelines, indicating participating properties within the approved initial zone and initiating proposal solicitation process in any matters incident thereto. So I don't think we're ready to take action on this item. Rick, one thing, if you could help me for the next one, is write the item up the way that you think would work based on your presentation. I kind of try to carve in a lot of things in there, but I think we're gonna get guidelines and participating properties. If you feel you need to have a committee meeting, Ms. Alexander is interested in being part of that, and please include her. Not any discussion on this item besides what I've mentioned?
I'd like to make a motion that we bring back this item for the
Second.
next meeting with the updates that you've requested of the.
I'll second that. Any additional discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? None, motion passes. Thank you very much. Item 12, discussion of possible action related to the City of Laredo downtown parking study of June 5th, 2019, in consideration for requesting to the City of Laredo that it reactivate, reconvene, or reappoint the Downtown Parking Advisory Committee and any other matters incident thereto. When I wrote this item, I was thinking that the city manager would be here today and that we kind of would roll through that discussion. But what I think we could do is, two things. I really suggest, Carol, that there be a meeting with him separately to kind of talk through how he can actually achieve this. I do agree the Parking Advisory Committee needs to be reconvened and then define with the council member, I think she's already left, but define who needs to be part of that, how that needs to happen, so that group gets reconvened. In present form, we are under the traffic safety and some sort of traffic department. It was not a standalone committee. The council at the time decided not to make it its own standalone committee. I think we would request that it be a standalone committee as opposed to getting rolled into other traffic subjects. Because that was part of what was happening at that time. Because I was one of the appointed, and it has not convened pre-COVID for sure.
But that committee is not, I mean, specifically connected to that study, which is a downtown parking study. So the the other parking outside of the zone, is not.
Yeah. I want to offer the city manager the courtesy of, without voting on this item, that you visit with him. If you'd like for me to be part of that, I'd be happy to. Before we take any action, we haven't really given him a shot at, I think we shared the study with him because it was on the email, but giving him an opportunity to review that and see what he thinks is the best route for that. That would be my suggestion, unless there's an action on any other.
Well, I mean, if we talk to the traffic director, if he doesn't have any items for an agenda, then he wouldn't be calling for a meeting. But if we can request and present some agenda items that we'd like to discuss with the Parking Advisory Committee, maybe that triggers him to start calling everybody.
So the only thing to clarify there is, we were essentially part of a larger committee that had nothing to do with downtown. So that was the concern, that was Priscilla Iglesias and myself would join that committee for items related to downtown, and then they handled everything else that the city handles.
Oh.
I don't know the correct term for the committee, traffic safety and enforcement or something.
I
So-
did get the minutes for the one and only meeting, and I can share that with you.
But it's
I can
not
share with
a
you.
parking advisor, it was called the.
Yeah, it evolved into that because the city did not want to create another standalone, but here I think it makes a lot of sense.
This one was one meeting, it was one meeting.
It's not a downtown parking.
That's correct, not the way the study envisioned it. So I think that's part of what needs to be discussed with Mr. Neb, that the intention of that study was to create its own advisory committee.
Gotcha.
Because there's an outline of objectives that group was gonna help implement and oversee.
Make it happen.
Then move to, table this until the next meeting when Benjamin can be here.
Yeah, motion, and if you don't mind, maybe, I'd like to give him have a sit down with him in advance of the meeting, so. But a motion to table, for the next, meeting while Mr. Neb gets back.
Second.
Second by Mr. May. Any additional discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? None, motion passes. Item 13, discussion with possible action regarding invoices submitted by Able City KCI. Those are in your packets. Edward, are these the ones that from last time?
They might need money to.
I thought the amount was different, the ones we didn't act on last time.
No, this is a different one. This is, one that I submitted here, just recently. This is probably a new one. This one didn't make last meeting.
The 16,650, is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir. Well, I didn't see the amount, I'm sorry, but, it's dated, August 17th.
Yeah.
And then the city form is dated, August, well, it's signed by Mr. Chavez August 31st. So this one didn't make the last meeting. This
Correct.
should be a new one.
This one,
Well, we didn't approve his last meeting?
no, cause.
So is this it?
Yes, this is what needs to be approved.
I thought the amounts is different, but.
This is the only one that we were provided by engineering, right, that's the.
Correct.
Yeah, there were,
Do you have an?
there was a, so this one I believe is 14, right? Yeah, invoice number 14. I believe 12 and 13 we submitted to engineering and there was just some corrections to it. But I'm not sure if you all approved that one yet.
13,
12 or 13.
have been approved?
I believe those have been approved
Okay,
already.
yeah, I thought they were too. I think we just made some, I think we submitted the city invoice on those late or something. I think it's.
For the board, any questions on, we don't have an invoice from you guys, okay? Motion to approve as submitted,
Second.
application payment number 14. Second by Mr. Navarro, any discussion? There being none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Any against? None, motion passes. Motion to adjourn. Seconded by Justin Heather. It's 4:54. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any against? None, motion passes. We're adjourned. Thank you very much.
Next time, bring it in.
Thanks, everybody.